And so things like mental health, which Eileen, is focused on, have not gotten the investments that K-12 has gotten for the last 8 years. And so we have situations like, 2 weeks ago, a nurse getting her ear bitten off by a patient at Western State Hospital because they don't have enough staff there. We don't have enough beds in the community to move people out of Western State. So we have very severe challenges in the state in addition to education. As we said, over, $1 out of $2 that you pay in state taxes goes to K-12 schools. And so we're always going to be focused on K-12 finance. There's not going to be a year that goes by that we say, oh, we're not worried about that. It's always going to be, it's always the biggest part of the state budget. It's always going to be the biggest part of the state budget. And we make changes to it every year. And I think that the question about regionalization is one that comes up from a lot of districts. There's a lot of districts that felt like they were not fairly treated by how regionalization was calculated by the group of 8 legislators who worked that out in the middle of the night on June 28th or something of 2017. And that's something that we can work on. I think it's, I can't tell you that we're just going to go in and get a bill passed that brings Vashon up to 18, because I'm sure other districts say, hey, what about us? Seattle's at 18, and they tell us every other day that they're, about to go under. So, there's a lot of problems that we're going to have to continue to address with the K-12 financing model. The prototypical school model was passed in 2009, and that's the one that includes, half a psychologist, which is half a psychologist more than most districts had at that point. And then the lawsuit came and said, you passed a prototypical funding model, so that needs to be all paid for with state resources, which is right. That was the right thing. But that was what the point of McCleary. I think a lot of the communication in the public about McCleary sort of didn't characterize it very well. It was about districts shouldn't be forced to rely on local levies to pay for the state definition of basic education. And so that's what we've been going back and forth on these last couple of years, is when will the state get to the point where we're actually paying the cost of what we do for a typical school model? And then, we finally got there in 2017, and the court told us, yes, you're funded basic education. That doesn't mean we funded education enough. That's a different question than you funded the constitutional requirements of what the legislature defines as basic education. There are things that go above and beyond that prototypical school model, right? School nurses, school psychologists, like other kinds of educators that that doesn't include, and that local levies pay for. And then part of the deal in 2017, which isn't a part that I was a fan of, but that the Republicans insisted on, was this cap on local levies. To say, and the thinking there was that if you allow local levies to be raised whatever the local voters will support, which again is what I think should be allowed, the Republicans would say we're from lower property value areas, and we'll just never be able to fund. Our districts we'll have inequities between the districts, right? We'll have districts in the Puget Sound area that can raise a lot of money in property taxes and fund lots of great wraparound services for their students, and then our school districts in the Yakima Valley will just be scraping by. So there's sort of an equity question there, but there's also a local control question, right? Like, should voters on Vashon want to raise their property taxes to be able to sustain more educators in their schools, or more school psychologists, or whatever it is? Shouldn't they be allowed to do that? And so that's one of the debates that we will definitely have in January. We're going to talk a lot about special ed. I don't know if that's a particular problem for Vashon, but basically the way that the special ed funding model works, and correct me if I'm wrong, Katie, is we pay a significant amount more per student for special ed students. And by we pay, I mean the state pays the district. A lot more for a special ed student than for a non-special ed student. But there's a cap in the law that says that only applies up to like 13.5% of your student population. And there's I think, a really fair and important question that a lot of legislators and parents and districts have raised to say, we don't control how many special ed kids are in our schools. Some districts have more than 13.5, and they're sort of left holding the bag. So I think if the legislature, we definitely want to pass a capital gains tax. We definitely want to get even more money into K-12. I think special ed is kind of at the front of the line, right? That's the thing that we most feel like needs to be addressed with the first new dollars of state resources for K-12. But that doesn't mean that regionalization and other factors are not also going to be a part of that. I think if we pass a capital gains tax, there's a lot of people that want to see property tax cuts with that. My feeling is Property taxes are not fun to pay, and nobody likes paying taxes, but we have a lot of needs as a state that we have underfunded over the last couple of years, and I'd rather see new dollars go into fixing the elementary system, fixing K-12, or we're going to fix K-12, but like getting more resources into those systems and into the foster care system and all these things that aren't working very well before we start cutting back on property or sales taxes. So if we are, and I think that, it's not good based on how things look after Tuesday, I think we may be in a position to get half of things passed finally, that's the single thing that we can do, the biggest step towards addressing the regressive upside down nature of our tax code, even more than income tax. Income tax is not about to happen, but even if it were, I would almost rather do a capital gains tax because it really is about people who've seen extraordinary growth in their wealth due to stock market. And it excludes retirement accounts, it excludes your residents. So really we're talking about people who've made a lot of money as their Microsoft or Amazon or other stock holdings have grown. So I think that we may be able to get that done this year, which will mean some new capacity for addressing special education, or addressing regionalization, and potentially some of these other things. But there will also definitely be a push to lift the local levy lids, and it's too early, I guess, for me to predict how that's going to go, because it does get you, as Slade said, that's exactly what McCleary was trying to prevent, right? The point of McCleary was local levies shouldn't be paying for basic education, and now we have districts, doesn't sound like Vashon, but we have Seattle coming at us and saying, lift our local levies, lift the levy lid, and say, isn't this what you were just suing us about? Isn't that what you're just suing us to stop?
And then the other issue about if like your example of Vashon and Yakima, that we could raise a lot more because our property values are so much higher. Then we start to draw teachers away from Yakima, and that's not fair either. So it's hard. The levies are really hard, because it's hard for me to say to somebody, yeah, you're paying your local taxes or your local taxes are going to somebody in wherever. That's great, but we live here. Sorry.
Yeah, there's just a natural, and this is true in every state, by the way. Every state that has school districts. Hawaii doesn't have a school district, but this tension between, I want my property taxes that I pay to stay here in my community and support my kids or my neighbor's kids, versus shouldn't every kid, no matter what their zip code, have access to a quality education. Those things are in conflict, right? Those are two values that we all tend to subscribe to, but also that are naturally going to conflict.
There's some sort of a element of this that's public. So the public might say, I want my teachers to live on Vashon. Isn't everything solved because you did the McCleary legislative solution? I have a friend who is very sophisticated, CFO of a huge company, now retired, and he said, what's not to like about McCleary? Isn't everything okay? This is somebody who is a news consumer. So isn't that part of the challenge that legislators face? If people really understood the issue, would it be different for you?
Well, you can understand, like, one issue, they don't necessarily add, it's kind of like they don't add all of the issues up together and understand the gives and takes that have to happen. That, I'd say that's probably the biggest frustration. Precedent even, really, don't explain, sorry. But it doesn't get explained as, okay, we have this problem over here, but we also have this problem. And let's have the discussion about which one of those problems.
Yeah,
the balance.
And like Mary Margaret was saying, our property taxes went up so much. So on one side, we're all looking at our bills and seeing that our bills are going up. On the other side, the school board and Slade are saying, yeah, the school board, the district is looking at a shortfall soon. So it's sort of, how do you, it's not a quick elevator conversation.
No, it's very hard to sound right.